Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. So we continue the teachings from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, the perfection of renunciation, and we are going to read text 37. Yatad agre vishamiva pariname mritopanam tad sukham satvikam proktam atma bodhi prasadajam yatad agre vishamiva pariname mritopamam tad sukham satvikam proktam Atma Bodhi Prasadajam Yatadagre Visamiva Parinami Mitopamam Tatsukam Satvikam Proktam Atma Bodhi Prasadajam Yatadagre Visamiva Parinamritopamanumam Tatsukam Satvikam Proktam Atma Bodhi Prasadajam Yattadagre Vishamiva Parinami Mitopamam Tatsukam Satvikam Proktam Atma Bodhi Prasadajam Yattadagre Vishamiva Parinami Mitopamam Tatsukam Satvikam Proktam Atma Bodhi Prasadajam Yatadagre Vishamiva Parinami Mitopamam Tatsukam Satvikam Proktam Atma Bodhi Prasadajam Yat, which, Tat, that, Agre, in the beginning, Visham Iva, like poison, Pariname, at the end, Amrita, nectar, Upamam, compared to, Tat, that, Sukham, happiness, Satvikam, in the mode of goodness, Proktam, it is said, Atma, in the self, Buddhi, of intelligence, Prasadajam, born of the satisfaction. Translation. That which in the beginning may be just like poison, but at the end is just like nectar, and which awakens one to self-realization, is said to be happiness in the mode of goodness. Repeat, please. That which in the beginning may be just like poison, but the end is just like nectar, which awakens one to self-realization, is said to be happiness in the mode of goodness. Bhaktivedanta purport. In the pursuit of self-realization, one has to follow many rules and regulations to control the mind and the senses, and to concentrate the mind on the self. All these procedures are very difficult, bitter like poison. But if one is successful in following the regulations and comes to the transcendental position, he begins to drink real nectar and he enjoys life. That which in the beginning may be just like poison, but at the end is just like nectar, and which awakens one to self-realization, is said to be happiness in the mode of goodness. Yeah, if we can reflect onto ourselves personally, the first time we started chanting Hare Krishna, it was very difficult. I remember I couldn't even finish 2 rounds. And if I finish 2 rounds, I'll take that to be an achievement that day. It was so difficult. Chant 2 rounds of japa, that was an achievement, a major achievement. It was almost like climbing Mount Everest. So you can see that just through this trying to chant Hare Krishna, at the beginning, from our own experience, it's so difficult. But after coming down to the platform of following the 4 regulative principles, trying to avoid the offenses of chanting the holy names of the Lord, and also so many other directions that were given through the nectar of instruction and nectar of devotion, then you start building some taste. There's some taste built. And you find that even now, if something surprises you, instead of going, oh my God, most likely a lot of us will be going, Hare Krishna. That will be our response. Because we've now accustomed ourselves, we've fine-tuned ourselves, we've assimilated our system to the names of Krishna. So we find that in pursuit of self-realization, there are specific steps that are to be performed in order for one to achieve the desired goal of Krishna Prema. And these goals, the first one we can say is from hearing. Before you hear, if you haven't heard the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, you find it very, very strange. And if you haven't heard it properly, then you find it difficult to follow. I know that even amongst the different religious groups in India, one who chants Hare Krishna, they look at them like, these people are they're not very intelligent. They forget that these people who are chanting Hare Krishna are actually the most intelligent because they know the goal of life. They know the Yuga Dharma. They know what is required of them for this particular age, time, and space. So, in following the different rules and regulations laid down, not breaking the 4 regulative principles, following not committing any Nam aparad, not committing any Vaishnava aparad, knowing how to relate to other devotees, then slowly as we practice, we become accustomed and get used to it. It's just like even those who do Hatha Yoga. The first time they do, practically they'll end up, their body will be aching all over. But as they get along, their joints start getting used to the whole exercise. And slowly they find that it is easier to perform those exercises. So similarly, Even in the aspects of bhakti, you find that some certain things are very, very difficult to do. Like a lot of people still, they find it very difficult. How can I do deity worship? But it is Prabhupada's request that practically every household should have a set of deities that they can worship at home. And that's Prabhupada's personal request. Every household should have a deity that they can worship at home. And in the beginning, trying to worship, trying to come and learn how to chant, learning to serve the deities at home becomes a very arduous task. Because you don't know, you're still not used to the regulative way of when to make offerings, when to chant, when to wake up. And all these things are very, very difficult at the beginning. But as you continuously practice them, then you find that now it becomes part of your sadhana. It becomes part of your daily routine. It becomes easier for you. You wake up and immediately the first thing that you think about is Krishna. How am I going to serve Krishna today? You go to the market and you're looking at the fruits and vegetables and you're thinking, what's the best one I can get for Krishna? You are thinking about Krishna always, in all your activities. And that's the advantage of having a deity at home. Because it helps you when you leave your house, you know, oh, I've left their lordships there. When I come back, what am I going to bring them? You're always thinking of doing something for them. You're always thinking of a way to render service or a way to better the service that you're already rendering to them. So in this way, we find that all these initial stages might be very, very difficult at the beginning, but by practicing them, they bring you to the transcendental position of love of Godhead. So, like we say that all these activities, we go about looking for them, and in Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, Krishna says that Yamhi na vyatayanti te purusham purusa shabha samma dukkha sukham diram samratyava kalpate. That the translation of that is that, O best among men, Arjuna, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is ready in both is certainly eligible for liberation. So in chapter 18, we are being told that that which in the beginning may be just like poison, but in the end is like nectar, and which awakens one to self-realization. He said to be happiness in the mode of passion. But earlier on, Krishna has already said that a person who is not disturbed by happiness or distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation. In the purport, Prabhupada says this: anyone who is steady in the determination for the advanced stage of spiritual realization and can equally tolerate the onslaughts of distress and happiness is certainly a person eligible for liberation. In the Varnashram institution, the fourth stage of life, namely the renounced order, sannyas, is a painstaking situation. But one who is serious about making his life perfect surely adopts the sannyas order of life in spite of all difficulties. The difficulties usually arise from having to sever family relationships. We've been so used to family relationship. We are born into a family relationship. We become the children. We grow up, we get married, we start building our own families. So we find that we are practically covered with families practically at every stage. But towards the end of life, we are being told, no, cut this out, because that is also a source of attachment. Our friend Jamil was very, very lucky because he'd given his child the name Narayan. But if it was just another name, then I'm sure the Yamadutes could have come for him, because that is the name that he could have been chanting. But because he was absent-mindedly glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by him chanting Narayan, Narayan, calling his child, he got liberation, and he got the Vishnu Dutas to come and take him back home, back to Godhead. So with us also, we have to try and get ourselves to the platform where we savor ourselves away from the family situation. Not all of us can be like Ajami, because we don't know exactly what our state of mind will be at the time of death. We are not so sure whether we will be able to remember Krishna. But by pulling away from the family situation gives one a better chance to try and concentrate more on Krishna than concentrating on the day-to-day activities. Oh, this child is playing there, or he's fallen down, he's hurt himself, or this, what is he doing now? He's playing with a knife, it's not good for him. You get involved with so many clutter that you cannot concentrate in trying to fulfill your sadhana. But by severing ourselves away and separating ourselves away from that sort of situation, then we find it easier to practice our sadhana. And that is actually what Prabhupada is trying to say, that the difficulties of sannyas usually arise from having to sever family relationships, to give up the connection of wife and children. But if anyone is able to tolerate, it's what Prabhupada says, that if anyone is able to tolerate such difficulties, surely his path to spiritual realization is complete. So we have to learn how to tolerate these situations. And if you can't tolerate the situation, then we have to ship out. You have to leave the family so that you can go there. Because ultimately, your liberation, by getting liberated, you're actually assisting your family, the generations behind and the generations that had gone ahead. By being self-realized and being freed from all these other attachments, you equally, by the activities and by the goodwill of what you've done, being a devotee, you actually uplift your family also. So it's not that when you leave your family, who is going to look after them? Lord Chaitanya took sannyas when he was only 24 years old. He had a wife who was only 16 years old. He had an old mother. His brother had already taken sannyas long time ago. But still, he had to make that sacrifice. If he never made that sacrifice, he could not have been chanting Hare Krishna now. So he had to take that sacrifice. And that sacrifice that he took is what has brought us to where we are today. So similarly, in his example, when we now reach our old age, our retirement ages, we should also be able to take that leap. It's called a leap of faith. That everything, if I leave everything, Krishna is going to take care of it. If I follow what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is trying to teach me, he will take control of the whole situation. So we have to understand, and that is why it's so important that we have, in the initial stages, to follow all the rules and regulations as they are stipulated. Those rules and regulations are supposed to be like the building blocks. The building blocks, or the strengthening of and stretching of your muscles in your spiritual growth to spiritual adulthood. So, in order to be able to reach the platform of transcendence, we cannot do that without following rules and regulations. Because the world by itself is a place of rules and regulations. You do this, you do that. Don't do this, don't do that. If you do this, you'll get this reaction. it's a place where there are particular rules that have to be followed always. Mm. Like even the government sets out laws, and in our own household, we also set our own laws. In my house, I want it to be done like this. I want you to do this in my house with this specific function. Sometimes what I want to be done in my house is not agreeable to what the government wants, but because I am the ruler of my house, I prevail over what is supposed to be done there. But if the government comes to hear of it, who sets the bigger laws, then I have to answer the consequences of my wrongdoing and my wrong decisions. So similarly, in the prospect of building ourselves towards Bhakti Yoga, we have to take full responsibility for all our actions so that we are able to try and achieve the desired success and the desired goal. Hare Krishna.